For the hundreds of Kashechewan First Nation evacuees here in Niagara Falls, this border crossing is just a short walk away. But the First Nation is directing its members to stay on the Canadian side following concerning actions by ICE in the U.S. Nearly 900 evacuees arrived at several Niagara Falls hotels earlier this month after a water crisis forced them from their Northern Ontario community. The First Nation is citing, quote, heightened patrol enforcement measures in the U.S. as a safety concern for those who wish to cross. But the warning is not isolated here.
These are targeting aspects, right? I mean, they essentially are targeting people of minority.
Ontario Regional Chief Abram Benedict says he's aware of at least one First Nations man who was detained by ICE and brought back to Canada, his status card seized.
He was quite fortunate to have an interaction just like that. We definitely don't want any First Nation member in the United States getting put into detention centers.
It's disheartening to come to this point in our relationship with our closest allies and friends.
Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak says cross-border familial and cultural ties make it difficult to order First Nations to stay on the Canadian side. But the AFN has issued a travel advisory urging extreme caution.
We advise any First Nations members traveling to the U.S. to carry valid identification, including a status card, a Canadian passport, as well as maybe a blood quantum letter noting that proof of 50% blood quantum.
Mississauga First Nation and several others have issued similar warnings. Indigenous people have the right to freely cross the U.S.-Canada border under what's known as the Jay Treaty, signed in 1794. It is recognized by the U.S. government, but not by Canada.
The reason why Canada says they don't acknowledge it is it was a treaty made between the United States and Great Britain.
Journalist Mark Trahant, a member of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes in Idaho, advises against traveling under the Jay Treaty. He notes that recently an Indigenous man in the U.S. was reportedly detained by ICE agents.
The young man who is Navajo was carrying documents from the tribe that showed he was a tribal citizen, and they took him in anyway. They basically didn't believe it until they ran their own document search. So I think this is just such a precarious moment in history because the agency is basically not following its own protocols.
We reached out to ICE but did not receive a response in time for broadcast. For City News, I'm Erica Natividad.